What if you want to sue somebody, but you're worried that if you win, they will have dissipated or hide all their assets, so there's no way you can recover either your damages or your costs? Anything you can do about that? Yes, there is. You can make an application for what's now called a freezing order, although people still call them Mareva orders, which is their original name after a particular case. So what does that entail? Well, you apply to the court and you say, I want to sue somebody. This is what, this is my claim. And this is why I think they will dissipate their assets. You have to do this on evidence. You can't just speculate about it. So, sometimes that's by, means of correspondence. If somebody's threatened to do that in the correspondence, or they have a history of doing it, or, you can give evidence that they've spoken about doing it. When do you actually apply? Well, obviously, if you tip them off, then they'll already start hiding their assets. So this is what you do this application, what we used to call ex parte, now without notice. So you go to the court, you issue this, and you don't serve it on the other side. You go to the court and say, I'd like this freezing order. You're under this duty of full and frank disclosure because the other side aren't represented. So you have to present any argument that they themselves might present. If the court is persuaded, they will issue an interim order, an interim freezing order, but then there will be a return date where the other side are allowed to come along and actually, argue their case themselves. Because obviously all their assets have been frozen in the interim. So these tend to happen very, very quickly, usually like 3 days later. What can you get with a freezing order? Well, it's just an injunction saying, first of all, you can't dissipate the assets, but you can also serve it on third parties. So, for instance, you'll serve the order on the person's bank or banks and say, they can't use these accounts, they can't move any money out of these accounts. Oftentimes, the court will say, well, how much are we looking at? How much are you suing them for? And, what are your costs likely to be? And they might just say, well, okay, that amount has to be frozen, but they can move anything else. But if, for instance, the claim is massive and there aren't assets in the bank to cover the entire claim, they would freeze the entire accounts, but then people are allowed like an allowance to live on. So for all their essential expenses, like mortgage, rent, sometimes school fees, also legal fees, but they will actually say how much they can withdraw and how it has to be spent. So it's quite an onerous order, but they're not uncommon, and they are a good way to make sure that if you are going to issue a claim, then there's a chance of actually recovering at the end of it. Right, so as always, if you found that useful, please consider clicking the like button, subscribing and sharing.